Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word Live and to, Midweek Live. It is Wednesday. Hello. I hope everyone is okay in the chat and everyone watching as well at home. We've got a few interesting topics to talk about, and there's going to be four of us tonight. Four of us. I've not put Jonty's logo on screen, so apologies to Jonty for that one. Completely forgot. But yes, anyway, we're going to be talking about Robert Kubica and the reports that came out over the weekend that he's got an offer at Williams and talk early in this week that he's going to accept that or has accepted that and will be racing next year. It is still reports and speculation, but it is looking increasingly likely he will be getting that seat. So we'll talk about that one in just a moment. What it all means for what's left of silly season, for what it's worth as well. Who's going to be missing out next year because of this. We're also going to talk a little bit about Mercedes and their fifth World Championship, whether or not they can take the fight to Ferrari and Red Bull next year to claim a sixth. I'm sure they can. It's whether or not they will, I guess, is the question. But also, we're going to be talking a little bit about a couple of news stories that came out today. One about Artem Markelov and one about Sauber and a junior team, which is actually quite awesome. I'm quite excited for that one. But we're going to start. This might take me an hour, but here we go. We're going to start by saying a very good evening to Jonty. Hello, Jonty.
Good evening, Sean, and everyone in the chat.
How are we doing? Are we good?
Yeah, a couple of rough days, but winning now.
That's the main thing. Awesome. Well, we're going to crack on. We have to get through all these people to introduce now, Jonty. We're also going to say a very good evening once again to Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hello, great to be here again.
Are you good?
I'm very chipper this evening. Really looking forward to this one as always.
That's a concern. And we're also going to say, for the first time in, I think we've just been talking, probably since February, hello and welcome back to Alex. Hello, mate.
Hello, thank you for inviting me back on. Yeah, I'm sorry it's been a long time, but it's nice to be back.
Nah, it is good to have you back, mate. It is. We're going to jump straight into it. There's quite a few bits to talk about and lots of opinions from all of us to get onto. But first off, the news sort of came out over the weekend, didn't it? Reports that Robert Kubica had got offered a concrete drive at Williams, I think the wording was, and also an offer from Ferrari to be reserve driver, which interested me. And he was given basically, which one do you want? You know, he's got to make the choice between the two of them. And reports came out on Monday and yesterday saying that he's accepted it. Some are saying, Jonty, that it's going to be by the end of this week. Others are saying that it's not going to be before Abu Dhabi. But ultimately, it sounds as though even if he doesn't take the Williams seat, he's going to be at Ferrari. But he's got to take a race seat over a development role, hasn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, again, we've never been in that position, but I have to think that if it was me, I'd be taking a race seat over a development drive any day, no matter what team it's with.
Yeah, absolutely. I just seen somebody in chat talking about the Twitter account. It's nothing to do with the Twitter account. These are other reports. That was, no tick on that one. I don't tend to believe those ones, but there was that Twitter account, wasn't there, floating around that trying to get people to get excited. Actually got quite a few legitimate followers, which I found quite interesting. Actually, John, a few like proper BBC people, I think, as well.
I hold my hands up. It caught me out purely because the account had like 15,000 followers. That just automatically read as legit in my head.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought, hey up, but then I just looked for the tick and I didn't see it, so I avoided that. But the reports around the weekend, that's where this is all sort of coming from. And then I think it was, I know they're not the most reliable, but reports in Germany, we'll put it that way, that said on, I think it was Monday, said that this would be confirmed by the end of the week. And then Andrew Benson of the BBC said it would be not before Abu Dhabi is what he's been told, and that's in quotes. So what do you reckon, Dan? Do you fancy having Kubica back, or are you one of those that thinks maybe 33 years old, time to maybe go with somebody a bit younger?
No, I don't think now. They got good old George Russell. He's the youngster. I think we've seen this year that the lack of experience in the team, it's not held them back loads, but it's definitely not helped them whatsoever. So I think they need someone with a little bit of experience. I'm sure we'll talk about Ocon. He's got experience and there's other options. But Kubica, yeah, I'm for it. What a story. What a journey. I can see it happening. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
What are your initial thoughts on it all, Alex? Are you quite excited at the idea of getting Kubica back in Formula One, if it happens, of course?
Yeah, I think I would be really excited. I mean, I think a couple of people were saying in the chat as well, he's only a similar age to Hamilton. Hamilton's obviously in the peak of his time in Formula One right now. So I don't feel like age should really be a factor in all of it. And I suppose if you look at the other options, if they really need the money, maybe Sorokin, but I hope they're going to a different stage, maybe signing a title sponsor that they won't need that. So I think obviously Kubica probably would be be great for just a story in itself, but maybe it'd be great for them in terms of marketing as well. But yeah, I'd love it. I think it'd be great to see him back.
He'll be. I mean, I mentioned the age thing there, sort of 33, same age as Hamilton. He's been away a long time, but I think I was talking about it, possibly chatting to myself randomly in the watch along on Sunday. I feel really awkward with Kubica in that I don't like when people say he's had his time, because, and maybe I'm wrong, Alex, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel like he has, because obviously that injury set him back 8 years. So it's not like he's been consistently in the sport since 2005 or whenever he debuted. He's had a long gap without it. So I don't like it when people say he's had his time, if that makes sense, because he's not really, has he?
No, exactly. Well, he spent 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, so 5 years there, and he's been even further than that away from Formula One. So obviously there will be a bit of a reintroduction process with him getting back into the car, but I feel like he's going to have done enough sim testing and all that sort of stuff over the last couple of years, and the testing at Renault last year and with the Williams this year, that it wouldn't be a massive leap. But I guess what we really want to know is how much has that injury really affected him, because there can't be no difference whatsoever. It might be subtle, but I think it'd be interesting to see what that injury actually would do over 20 races, 21 races over a season.
I think that's it, isn't it, Jonty? I mean, he showed in testing in Abu Dhabi. There was a great piece on Sky that showed sort of on board, and he explained how he was working the steering wheel and how it all worked out for him, having to drive not completely one-handed, but effectively one-handed. But it's what Alex says there, 21 races next year. That calendar could increase to as many as 25 in the future. Races like Singapore are really physically demanding. Williams have got to make sure, and of course Kubica himself has got to make sure that he can handle that. But I guess at the same time, if he didn't think he could, he wouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's true. But you've also got to think, since that accident, he's come back and won other series. He won WRC2 with that injury. And he's been doing a lot of other elements of racing. So how much difference is there in the physically demanding element between WRC and Formula One? I think there has to be. It's going to be very different, but it's still going to be a big physical demand on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I just think of a race like Singapore in the heat, but rally go all over the place as well, don't they? So, got to remember that. I struggle with Kubica because it's one of those things, and I think we've discussed it so many times, Jonty, in the past, just briefly, but I really want to see him back because I don't think he's had his time. I think he's got a lot still to prove. I mean, I remember in fact, I think he's confirmed he signed for Ferrari in 2010. It was all just about done and dusted, and he was future World Championship material. He was a race winner. He was consistently putting that car on the podium. He was quick from pretty much day one. I think I want him on the grid, and that story's fantastic as well. But I do look at drivers like Esteban Ocon and think, is it right that he's missing out?
It's not right, but I think in some ways it's almost expected with the way that Mercedes has been running their young driver program.
Yeah.
People have lost out before. We've seen this with Verline, of course. And hopefully it won't go that far with Ocon, but it might.
I think the other thing as well, Dan, is it's not like he hasn't done anything F1 related, as Jonty was saying a little bit ago. He's done simulator work, he did testing in Abu Dhabi, and they were happy with his numbers. So it's going to be a shock to the system maybe when he arrives in Australia, but not maybe. It's not like he's sat down and done nothing for 8 years. Dan.
Oh, sorry. sorry. The thing cut out for me for a second there. I apologise. No, he's been about, and I think Alex brought that up as well. He's been there. He's been with a full season now with Williams. I think, for me, like you say, races like Singapore, we're going to Vietnam in 2020. It's going to be a lot to handle. And although he's done all these different categories, it's not F1 at the end of the day. And what I'd really hate to see is him jump in the car in Melbourne, do a few races, but then after a few races, then decide, well, I'm not going to be able to make a full season. And that would, well, I suppose, ruin the fairy tale, to be honest. And I'd hate to see that. Whereas if he did go to Ferrari, had a great reserve role there, testing development driver, maybe that would be, I don't want to say an icing on the cake, because I think we'd all love to see him jump back into Williams. I don't want to say this like it's going to sound, but destroy George Russell and then get back into a top running car. We'd love to see that. But unfortunately, with his injury, I don't see it happening. That in terms of pace, I really don't. And I think a whole season, again, we don't know the stats. We don't know the details in and out. But judging from what we see in the media, I can't see him doing a full season of F1.
Ooh, big call, Dan. I'm just looking at Arashi in chat. I hope I've got your name right. It says Robert was constantly in motorsport since 2013, and in every single discipline, he has shown that he has top speed and he's competitive at a top level. We were just talking about that. Jonty was just bringing it up, and Alex as well. I mean, I don't doubt his talent. I don't doubt that he's got the speed there. At the end of the day, Alex, as I've already said a couple of times now, if he didn't have that, he wouldn't be in contention. Williams would just go, no, thank you. But at the end of the day, it's a great story, isn't it? And that's what we've been talking about. And can Williams maybe, if they struggle to get a title sponsor, because they missed out on Rich Energy, of course, which is a real shame because I would have loved that partnership, but missing out on Rich Energy, can they maybe use that story to bring in the cash, or is that maybe stretching that a little bit too far?
I think that's a fair statement. I really do. I think there is so much hype behind this story, even for new fans who didn't really know who Robert Kubica was. They're even interested in it. They want to see him come to the team. That being said, I don't think it's enough as a title sponsor would be. Although I think bringing Kubica to the team would encourage a title sponsor, especially if you compare him to Ocon. I think that will maybe put people off a little bit. So I think that's definitely a big part to play, is the marketing side.
Yeah, I mean, he does come with backing, doesn't he, Alex? There is the talk that he's got some good Polish backing as well.
Oh God, sorry, I struck the controller on the floor. Well, he was sponsored, I think, by Lotus, not the car company. I think it's something in some company in Poland that he was sponsored by when he was in rallying, and I feel like he will have some substantial backing. But I also, after the last couple of races, I might get a lot of flack for saying this, but I feel like Sorokin has kind of upped his game. I mean, we don't know how good really Lance Stroll has been in this second half of the season, but I would feel kind of a bit sorry for Sorokin if he wasn't a little bit more in contention for this role. But I think for just the whole story, I think the one where we all want to see back is Kubica. So I think it would just be fantastic. But yeah, whether he can do a full season or not, I think is a very valid point. I mean, we don't know. He's done a couple of one-off test sessions, but yeah, I don't know whether a full season would be really possible. It would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the ultimate test for him, isn't it? We're actually... I forgot what I was going to say then. That's just completely gone out of my head then. But yeah, I think it is a big difference between racing and testing. And what I was going to say is just falling back in my head is we've actually had the conversation quite a bit about how good, certainly I do, I think Jonty agreed as well, that how good Sorokin has been this year, better than I expected. And I'm not going to lie, Alex, I did think when he signed in January, I thought he'd be an absolute flop and be terrible. And I think he's been, and some would say this isn't much of a yardstick, but I'd say he's been more than a match for Lance Stroll. And for a rookie season, which is what it is, I think he's done all right. And I think it'd be a shame, like you say, if he doesn't at least get proper consideration for that seat.
Well, yeah, if you're seeing obviously Stroll going to Force India is not much, he's got some talent, but he's getting that role because he's, part of the team. His dad's owning the team. But I think Sorokin really has shown in the last couple of races, at least, with no experience of any of these tracks, or most of these tracks, he's really done quite well. And it was Singapore, not Singapore, it was Brazil, wasn't it, where he did an incredible job. He was so much faster than his teammate, and I really didn't expect that. At the start of the season, like you said, I did kind of feel like he was going to be a bit of a flop, but I had seen his performances in GP2 and Formula 2 and thought, there is some talent here, but it's just not consistent enough. But I think in the second half of this year, at least, we've seen that consistency, get into him, and he actually genuinely is a decent driver. But I don't know, when you've got people like Kubica, and if they do get a title sponsor, why would you not go for Ocon? So there are just other options that, if the money is stable, I don't see why you would go for Sorokin in that regard.
I'm going to have to ask you probably what some will see as a really awful question now, Alex. And I'm going to come to the other two as well, but I'll start with you. had Williams have landed the Rich Energy backing, would Esteban Ocon be in that car next year? I love putting people on the spot. I'm so sorry.
I'll say yes, because they'll still have the link with Mercedes, so I'd say yes.
What about you, Dan?
I'm going to disagree with you, Alex. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, but I don't think so. I think Williams, if they did a deal with Rich Energy, already had one Mercedes driver. They like to be seen as the independent team, and I couldn't see Claire Williams signing off a deal to have two Mercedes young drivers.
John T?
I was going to say no, purely because of how Rich Energy go about themselves in the public spotlight. I think they would have been pushing to what level they can to have someone that's far more marketable as a personality for their idea of branding, because that's obviously got to be a consideration for these title sponsors. If you think about the way that Rich Energy have had all their news back in August with all the Force India stuff, very almost a bad boy image, they're going to get a lot more marketing out of Kevin Magnussen.
That's a really good point. I mean, my mind was telling me at the time when all the Williams links were there that if Rich Energy get in, it's Ocon. If he doesn't, then it needs to be. If they don't, then it needs to be somebody with backing. And Kubica has Polish backing. There are still some question marks over it, but Sorokin at the time did have Russian backing. But what swayed me was all the talk that came out when, and I think it's sort of come out a bit more this last couple of weeks now, that Mercedes only wanted Ocon to have a 1-year deal at Williams, and Williams want two drivers that they not control, but can have a little bit longer and build the team around. But what all of this says to me is Toto Wolff is saying on Esteban Ocon, he will have a seat in a good car in 2020 guaranteed, so we're not worried about 2019. Williams are saying we didn't want him partly because they only wanted a 1-year deal. What does this mean for Bottas, Jonty? Because that to me, unless Hamilton decides to retire suddenly, that to me sounds like decisions have been made already.
Yes, it does. And it would be very hard to disagree with that decision.
I saw your tweet on Sunday. It's all right. Or was it Monday, possibly?
Yeah, he really hasn't performed. The last few races, you can probably give him a little bit of slack because it's quite obvious he's been sort of stamped on fairly hard by the top brass at the team, and that would be demoralising. But he should have always known that he was going to be playing second fiddle. So, how much can you let him off for that? When the fact remains, he has been very, very slow the last few races.
He struggled. It's such a shame because that early season form was so good. I'm just looking at chat actually after I just threw that out there. And Metal Gear Solid Snake says, what if Bottas wins the championship next season? Will he still be fired? Obviously, we're all speculating. We don't know what's going on at Mercedes, but have to remember Damon Hill won the title in '96 and was still fired. A title doesn't necessarily save a driver from being dropped, but I would probably argue, to be fair, Dan, that if Bottas really wants to keep his seat in 2020 with Ocon, who Mercedes rate incredibly highly, like I do Stoffel Van Dorn, of course, but who Mercedes rate incredibly highly, he might have to win the championship or at least be in contention for it to keep his seat.
Yeah, he's going to have to be, hella consistent across the season. Like you say, this year started off really strongly, and if he hadn't had that puncher in Azerbaijan, I think he would have been leading the championship at that point. And I remember halfway through the season, I really tried to defend Valtteri because I thought he got so unlucky on multiple occasions. But like you say, Jonty, of late, he's really dropped off the boil. And I think over the winter, needs to really clear his head. And he's going to be under a lot of pressure from the word go next year because of this Ocon supposed deal. And I think he's got the capability to do it. I think a lot of people forget how highly rated he was when he was at Williams and how everyone said this guy was the next big thing. I think if I was going to be 100% honest, I think he's really got to pull off all the stops and be right up there with Hamilton. Almost every weekend, you're not sure if it's going to be Hamilton or Bottas. Whereas this year, I think most people would agree, if you're going to put money on anyone, you're going to put it on Hamilton every single time. And I think that needs to change next year. but I don't see it happening.
I'll say it again, Alex. We are just speculating. Obviously, we don't know anything about Valtteri Bottas. It just all the fingers seem to point, or all the signs seem to point towards possibly he might be under pressure already. Now, I really like Esteban Ocon, and I really want him on the grid. Probably as much as you want Adrian Sutil on the grid, mate. I really want him there, but I can't help but feel that if this is what's going on behind the scenes, if that pressure's been put on already, I really feel for Bottas. I think that's incredibly unfair, given that he's just signed a deal.
Well, we've seen, haven't we? I think pretty much since the summer break, I think the only race where he's actually looked like he could even beat Hamilton was Russia. And of course, Hamilton was much more in the place to win the championship than Bottas was at that point. So they did the switcheroo. But I don't know. I thought, like a couple of people say in the chat, sometimes Bottas just didn't have that last 2 or 3% to go and grab a victory. I mean, there are a couple of times this season where he was just way off the pace, but there were a couple of times this year where he should have, got the win, but he didn't. So I feel like maybe we've seen over the last season battling Perez that Ocon has got that extra little bit of drive to go and take these opportunities where sometimes Bottas just doesn't put himself in that situation.
Do you think he maybe lacks, what's the phrase that some people like, the killer instinct?
I think that might be the right word, because the talent's obviously there. He can go out there and win races. I mean, Austria, he seems to be like the best driver around there every time we go there over the last couple of years. But there's just that last bit. Obviously not desire, but it's maybe that last bit of commitment, that belief in the car that he can actually pull it off.
Yeah, I've just realised we've talked 22 minutes about this one. It's a good topic to get onto. We're going to talk about the drive market as well, but I'm going to come to each of you, starting with you first, John. So you don't just have to give a yes or no answer. You can obviously give a point as always, but Kubica to Williams next year, do you think it's done, or do you think this is, as some have been saying in chat, just a bit of a publicity stunt and it's still a decision that needs to be made?
If they've got some clever PR people and marketing people, then by rights it should be both. He should be in that seat, and they should be doing whatever they can to make the most out of the PR situation. They've already got contacts with people because there has been a Williams movie. Can you imagine the kind of a movie about Kubica's comeback with winning beforehand, the huge accident in Canada, and the accident nearly severing his arm, and then back in a Formula One seat? It's an amazing story, and they could make a huge amount of money on the movie deal. So it really should be both of those things.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Dan?
I think Jonty's hit the nail on the head there. I think as well, Liberty Media, for them, it's beneficial to see Kubica in a seat. So whether they're behind closed doors pushing for it would be interesting to see. But I think, I agree with Jonty. I think if I was going to put money on anyone at this sort of stage, I would say Kubica. And I think the announcement will come out before Abu Dhabi.
And what do you reckon, Alex? Done deal?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add too much more to that, but I feel so sad for him because he's sort of been toyed with over the last couple of years, whether it's going to happen, with Renault and all that, and Williams at the start of this year. But I feel like just for everyone, this would be a great thing for Formula One. So yeah, let's see it happen.
I've got so many questions I want to ask and so much I want to talk about this, but if it gets confirmed, we'll do another live stream and get together and have another good chat about it. But there's so much we could talk about. We need to move on. Otherwise, we'll be streaming all night. And I know some people keep telling me not to worry about time because they don't mind us streaming all night, but I have wastelands to explore. I'm joking. I'm not going to drop a stream for Fallout. But rest of the driver market, it's still... There are a couple of seats still up in the air. We'll move away from Williams. Coming to you first, Dan. I mean... It looks like Albon will be in that Toro Rosso if they can get him out of that Nissan deal. The latest on that, by the way, is there is no latest. I don't think anything's changed in that. But Force India, that's done as well with Stroll. So we're looking at now just waiting for these things to confirm, or are you still expecting, as you said a couple of weeks ago, and I will hold you to it, another twist in the tail?
You see, I can still see a twist coming from somewhere. I can. But I think at this stage... If it's going to come anywhere, I think it would be Williams. I know I just said that I think I'd put money on Kubica, but I think Albon is done. Me and Alex were having a quick chat just before we started, and you'd think by now, with Formula E just a month away, you'd think that would be done and dusted. Nissan would say, "Yep, he's staying with us," but no, he didn't show up to testing for Formula E. Like you say, there's been no sort of further talk about it. So I think the Albon deal is done. And I think if Stroll wasn't to get the seat at Racing Point, then that would be one of the biggest upsets we've seen in the driver market for a very long time.
It's like, I'd say it's the worst kept secret, but it's not even a secret, is it?
No, exactly.
It's an odd one. What do you reckon about Albon then, Alex? Because I'm not sure what's going on, because there was all this talk that it was on the brink of being announced, it was on the brink of being done, and then everything went really quiet, and Franz Tost started with the whole, we're going to look at all the options in December. So they can't have bought Albon out of the deal already if they're still looking at options.
Yeah, I guess they've got to really do their work behind the scenes to get him out of that deal. But I think, didn't the guy over at EDAMS or DAMS say that they would never get in the way of, letting Albon achieve his dreams? So when I heard that, I sort of felt like, oh, it's pretty much done in terms of that. But yeah, I feel like he's probably the best person for that seat anyway, really, isn't he? I mean, Brendan Hartley's been all right, but I can't really see him getting another season. And then after that, they're in such a dire situation. I can't really think of many other people that would go there.
No, I don't know. I'm so torn. I think Hartley, the last few races, they've not been amazing, but he seems to have definitely found some speed. And I wonder if Toro Rosso were just going, hang on a minute, he's got a year with his Honda engine. We need to develop it next year a bit more for Red Bull. Let's maybe just see how he gets on in Abu Dhabi and then make a decision. But while this is all going on, if a deal's not been reached with Albon and Nissan and Red Bull, when the season finishes, Alex, I might be wrong, but isn't Formula E about 2 weeks later? So is this a little bit unfair on Nissan and a little bit unfair on Albon at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think it starts about a month from today. So we'll probably know in the next couple of weeks what's going on here, because they surely won't leave it that late. Or we'll see, maybe Albon could start the Formula E season and then quit come March or whatever. But I feel like that would just be a bit silly. If he's trying to prepare for his first season of Formula One, he needs to, say, I'm not doing Formula E, just focus on Formula One. But, like you were just mentioning, Brendan Hartley's obviously a slightly older driver. So maybe all that experience might actually help Red Bull and Toro Rosso evolve their car to work with that Honda power unit. So I suppose it could be an option whether they want to go with Kvyat, who's obviously, even though I'm a fan, he's had a bit of his ups and downs, and an Albon. That would be still quite a junior lineup. So I guess it's really what they want to do. Would they want to go for that experience or just go for the fastest driver?
What do you make of it all, John? I know we've discussed it before, but just for anybody that's tuning in for a first time.
Well, I'm going to try and keep the sensible business head on, because you got Alexander Albon, a Thai driver, and what was announced just a week ago, confirmation of Vietnam for 2020. That's a massive upsurge in marketability for the Southeast Asia area. That can be a lot of people making a very short hop from Thailand over to Vietnam for watching the race.
I love it when you bring your business head along.
Well, at the end of the day, it is a business. All
Yeah.
of us are in it to make money, as our Liberty. It's a very big coup for a team like Toro Rosso. The amount of merchandising money they can get from that area by signing someone like Albon, it would give them a massive boost.
Ghost 610 gets worst pun of the day in chat. He just said Edams. That's a cheesy name. Terrible. Shockingly bad. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Stroll a little bit. We've already talked about Ocon, so I'm not going to cover that again. We know, if anybody's interested, by the way, in Esteban Ocon, apparently, which surprises me, apparently he's on for reserve driver roles at Williams, Force India, and Mercedes. Not or, and. Jonty, that seems crazy to me. 3 development and reserve driver roles. Surely if Mercedes are that keen on keeping him in their fold, they'd keep him in the main team and just get him doing as much as possible there, getting ready for 2020 potentially.
Depends if they've got any specific focus in that, because it could be construed as being one engine development role.
True, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Are they all Mercedes team? Oh dear, my brain. But yeah, Lance Stroll, he's going to Force India, isn't he, Alex? Is there any point really discussing him any more than that?
No, I mean, let's be honest, it's going to happen. I suppose they're just trying to wait for the best time to do it and not be a massive PR disaster. Maybe they're waiting for Ocon to be confirmed, at Mercedes as a test driver before they do anything. I don't know, maybe something like that just to cushion the blow.
Yeah, I think Lance Stroll. Apparently, the rumor, I suppose, the way to put it, it's more of a report. Apparently, Lance Stroll isn't keen on the idea of him being announced before Ocon is announced or has announced that he's leaving, because he doesn't want to upset his friend, which in some ways I go, that's really cool, that's really awesome of you. But at the same time I think, well, hang on a minute. Otmar Safnauer has basically confirmed it. Claire Williams has basically confirmed it. Toto Wolff has basically confirmed it. Esteban Ocon has basically confirmed it. Just confirm it.
Yeah, it's sort of like at this point, everyone knows it's, as you say, the worst kept secret in Formula One, probably history. So just get it done.
Do you think he deserves that step up to Force India, if we can call it a step up, Dan? Or is it all down to Lawrence Stroll?
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? I think if that didn't happen, then he'd be, I don't want to say doomed to Williams forever. No offense, Ellie. But I think we can all agree Ocon deserves that seat over Stroll. I think most people can agree with that. That being said, I don't think Stroll's an awful driver, and Williams being where they are at the moment, he hasn't really had the chance to prove his talents. And in that Williams last year, he did pick up a podium. He didn't end up getting a somewhat front row in Monza. So there is talent there. So if you're looking at it from that sort of point of view, yeah, let's give him a go. Let's give him a try. I think it's just a shame that we're losing a top caliber driver like Ocon. But I'm going to be kind to Stroll today. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say, yeah, why not? Let's give him a go. All I hope, though, I will say this, is that he's not in that car for, say, another 5 years and ends up clogging up the seat just because his dad's the team owner. I would not like to see that. But for maybe 1 or 2 seasons to give him a chance, yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as Lawrence Stroll owns that team, Lance Stroll will be there until he retires. I think is probably what we're going to expect to see. But the money went in from Lawrence Stroll in the bank account this morning. I need to split it with you, John T. But Lance Stroll's not the awful driver everybody makes him out to be, is he?
Cheers for that, mate. I'll check the PayPal.
Yeah, you can get your second yacht now.
Yeah, I think the way you need to look at it is that first lap is probably the closest the field will ever be to a level play, to even. Everyone's got similarly cold tyres, cold brakes, heavy loads, and no one is even close to Stroll over the last 2 years for making up places on that first lap. The big difference is that he's not in a car that can keep that pace for any more than that sort of first lap. So it's only next year when we'll really see if he can keep that pace going over a long race distance. And I do think he deserves the chance. You've got, as we've said many times before, talking about various drivers, you've got to have the pedigree to get there. You've got to earn the license, the super license points. So he definitely has a right to be in Formula One. And he's got a right to be in a better team to see if he is good enough.
Yeah, a couple of people in chat just talking that he's only got a few points this season, but nobody's scoring points in that car. He's got, is it 4 or 6 points? I want to say it's 6 points.
It's 6, yeah. I'm on the Wikipedia page. I was just checking.
He's got 6 points in a car that's identical to his teammate who's got 1, and he only got that because a driver was disqualified. So to drag that to the points, I think is pretty sound. But more importantly, looking at him last year, yes, the podium in Baku, massively lucky. We've talked about it before, though, haven't we, John T? It's that lap in Italy that put him 4th, which ultimately meant he was going to start on the front row in the rain. That shows that there's something in there.
Yeah. Again, time and again, everyone, not just in our streams, but throughout the Formula One community, changing conditions is where the drivers really earn their money, and it really shows who the most skilled are. And he put that car up there on raw talent and raw pace. So there's got to be something.
Right then, come to you first with this one, Alex. Toro Rosso and Force India. I don't know why I'm asking about Force India, but I will. Who are going to fill those seats?
Okay, so I guess Force India, Stroll and Perez, and then Toro Rosso, I guess the logical option, just from all the stuff that's been said, is probably Kvyat and Albon.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to be boring. I'm going to have to agree with Alex. I'm sorry. That's just what it's going to be, I'm afraid. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't either of those two.
Do you agree, John T, or are you expecting a twist?
Stroll's definitely nailed on, but Albon is the sensible option, but I don't think it's a done deal just yet.
I'll go Barrichello and Maldonado then to be different. There you go. Never going to happen. But we'll move on from silly season chat. Mercedes won. It got lost in all the controversy over the weekend, didn't it, Alex? But Mercedes did actually win a 5th consecutive Constructors title, which puts them one behind the record for Ferrari, who have got 6 from 99 to 2004. And I know that obviously in the UK there's been a lot on Sky Sports and a lot of, oh, look how amazing this is. But there's a lot of stick going around for Mercedes about how they're ruining the sport with a 5th consecutive World Championship. But it seems to be forgotten that this is one hell of an achievement. So, what I'm basically saying is stop the criticism for a bit and just let them enjoy the fact that they've pulled something phenomenal off.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that Mercedes are ruining Formula One. It's more that the other teams aren't doing a good enough job. I think that's probably quite clear, because Mercedes, they were in Formula One for, was it 4 years before they got a car that was, in 2013 they got a car that could win races, but in 2014 they had the chance to win a championship. So I feel like they worked at it. They worked at it for a long time, and they hit it right on the the nail on the head. They got the moment in 2014 when all the regulations changed and it all worked. But I think it's an incredible achievement, and I feel like if maybe Hamilton wasn't the way he was on social media, some people might look at him differently. But my opinions of him and I think Mercedes have changed quite a lot over the last couple of years. I've really started to respect him so much more as a driver, because he's breaking all these records, and it's not just because he's in a good car. It's because he's got the talent in him, and obviously you've seen the comparison between him and Bottas this year is quite drastic.
Yeah, the mighty Dash agrees with you in chat, mate. Absolutely. Says it's not Mercedes ruining the sport, it's other teams ruining it by being off the pace. They're not ruining the sport, Dan. I mean, even you're a young lad, but even through your few years watching F1 compared to the old men like me and John T, there's been dominant periods in Formula One. This isn't a new thing, is it? This isn't something that Mercedes have come up and all of a sudden they're the first ones ever to dominate the sport.
No, exactly. And the way I see it is the last 2 seasons, it's not really been Mercedes domination. It's been the fight between Mercedes and Ferrari. And it's more, I don't want to, sorry, I'm going to anger the Ferrari fans, but it's been the Ferrari bottle jobs that has made it arguably boring and given the Mercedes the 2 championships. I mean, this year in particular, Raikkonen's ahead of Bottas in the championship, and it's only, I suppose, through Vettel's multiple mistakes that Ferrari aren't up there and fighting in Abu Dhabi. I mean, they got it all the way to Brazil, so it's not like Mercedes walked away with it this year. I mean, but I think you're right. You can't take away from this achievement. They have been stellar over the past few years, and if I'm being honest, I think it's going to continue for the next few years.
I know you love a stat, Dan. I'm sure you do, Alex, and I know you do, John T, as well. But there was something shared today that says the F1 standings after the opening 10 rounds of this season, Vettel had 171 points and Hamilton had 163. If you just take the last 10 races of the season into account, Hamilton would have scored 220. Vettel would have been down in 5th in the championship on 131. This, as Dan's just said there, this isn't domination. That's not domination at all. There was a fight at the start of the season, and as Dan absolutely rightly says, it's Ferrari that threw it away.
See, I'm going to anger a slight branch of the Ferrari fans here and say, look, if this year Lewis and Vettel had been in each other's seats, Lewis would still be the champion. That's the big difference.
I think Toto Wolff, he said that, I think he said it yesterday, that they wouldn't have won 5 in a row without Hamilton. And I know he gets a lot of hate, and I know exactly what's coming, but it's fine because I was a hater at the weekend, so I can be a fanboy this week, it's fine. But I'd argue probably, certainly with Alonso going now, he will be the best driver on the grid. He is the fastest driver on the grid. And those cars, as far as I'm concerned, the Ferrari and Mercedes were basically equal when you split the year up. There was absolutely nothing between them. So I can't disagree with you on that at all, Jonty.
No. Everyone who's been watching this year would objectively has to say the Ferrari is the better overall package. They just sometimes, as a team with strategies, and sometimes the drivers in the car, Germany, haven't delivered when they need to. Mercedes have.
I think I said in the debrief, Alex, and maybe I'm way off with this, but I always look at Mercedes versus Ferrari and say that, Ferrari are a very good team, Mercedes are a very good team, but when you put driver, team management, mechanics, personnel all together, I just think that all round, and this includes Bottas, it's not all just Hamilton, but when you put that all round, they've probably got the best team overall, the best overall package.
Yeah, there's not so much conflict between Vettel and Raikkonen, but I think I agree with you there. And I also feel like, in a way, Vettel's got so much pressure from maybe his self-esteem and the Ferrari fans. All this pressure's on him to win the championship, and Hamilton maybe doesn't have quite so much pressure. So I feel like that might be a thing as well. But I think the relationship between Bottas and Hamilton has definitely helped, because obviously the conflict between Rosberg and Hamilton was entertaining, but maybe not the greatest in terms of like team management. But yeah, I think I'd agree with you on that. It's definitely the most consistent team over the season, as has been shown.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to come to you with this one, Dan. We'll sort of move a little bit away from this season and look ahead to 2019. I think one more race to go. I think it's acceptable to start speculation on next year now a little bit. But if Ferrari continues to develop as they did over last winter and they continue it over this winter, and Red Bull and Honda do work well together, landing a sixth and equaling that Ferrari record is going to be really tough for him next year.
Yeah, and I think we've got to look at it at the point that Vettel's going to come back stronger. I would be very surprised if he had a worse season than he's had in the second half of this season. I know I saw a stat today, throwing my stats out now, that Kimi Raikkonen is Ferrari's latest pole sitter, race winner, driver on the podium, and then drivers champion and constructors champion. I mean, he got that pole back in Monza. Vettel's not had a pole since then, I'm pretty sure. He's really gone off the boil, and I doubt that's going to happen next year. I keep saying this all the time, but I think Charles Leclerc is going to be an equal match to Sebastian Vettel. And this is where it comes in that I think Hamilton's going to be great, but is Bottas going to be able to rise to the challenge and help Mercedes win that Constructors' Championship? And it's going to be tough. Like you say, it's definitely going to be the hardest fight they've had since 2014 by a country mile. But if I was going to put money on it, I said it on my first ever stream, and I'm going to put you and Jonty under the spotlight here. You both said at that summer break that Vettel would win the championship, and I said no. You can't count out Mercedes, you can't count out Hamilton, and I'm going to stick with that. I really do believe that there's something special within that team, and I think until Hamilton leaves, there's such a connection, and I suppose a team spirit that is so strong within Mercedes. I think they're going to do it again. I think they will get the sixth.
I can give you that, mate. It's the only thing you've got right all year. But if you want to boast on that one, that's fine. But sort of you mentioned, I think it was Leclerc there, but Leclerc and Gasly are coming into top teams with something to prove. So that could be what pushes Ferrari on, what pushes Red Bull on, which maybe if they've got a point to prove, they're going to go with that killer instinct. They might go that extra mile, whereas Bottas with experience maybe might think twice about a move. Leclerc and Gasly are less likely to. That could be critical come the end of next season in the Constructors' Championship. If it comes down to 1 or 2 points, I can just see us being able to look back and go, well, actually, it was that move Leclerc made on Bottas or on Hamilton that won Ferrari the championship.
Yeah, and I suppose like Bahrain this year when Bottas didn't make the move and all the slack he got then, if he's doing things like that next year, then yeah, I think you got a great point there. I like I say, I just think Hamilton. I think if I was going to put money on it, Hamilton, I think will get the championship again. I don't think the Honda engine, I know we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago now, I don't think that engine will quite be up to par. Like I say, I think Mercedes, there's just something special there. And I think Bottas will up his game. I really do, especially with the Ocon pressure. I just can't see. I just can't. I don't really have much more to say if I'm being totally honest. I just think Mercedes, there's something special there. I think they'll just about get it. But I do think it'll go right down to the wire. And I think, like you say, one move, like from a hot-headed Charles Leclerc, who's really doing some special stuff, that could be the difference. So, yeah, I think it's going to be all to play for next year, and it's going to be a fun one to watch for sure.
Yeah, what's your take on next year, Jonty? Do you think Red Bull are maybe overhyping their chances a little bit and ought to maybe look at what happened with McLaren and say, do you know what, we'll go in a little bit more cautious next year? Because they're very confident. They're very, very confident. So, but I don't know. They have more information. Maybe they're confident for the right reasons. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure you'll agree. We want 3, 4, 5, 6 teams up there fighting for race wins.
They might be overstating their chances a little bit, but everything we've heard says that they're approaching it from the right direction, and sort of just lends more weight to the fact that it was McLaren at fault all along and not Honda. I mean, yes, there's been a hell of a lot of penalties and issues this year, but the pace has been there. That engine has been quite powerful and quick, certainly in the second half of this year. It's just the Toro Rosso chassis that's been letting them down. But it's always been up there in speed traps, so there's a big chance for them to be up there. But the team to really watch next year is Ferrari, because they have got the most pressure on them. Because 2019 is their last chance to stop this from being the first decade ever where they don't get either a drivers or constructors title.
Ooh, that's Jonty pulling the stats out now.
That is a very good stat. That is a very good stat.
Since the start of 1950, Ferrari have had either a drivers or constructors title in every single decade, apart from this one.
I didn't even know that.
If you want predictions, and if you want predictions, Leclerc's going to take pole, Vettel will be second, and Vettel's going to take him out, and that will be the deciding moment of the championship. Turn 1 in Australia.
Have you written that down? Is that the one you've pinned on Twitter?
Yeah.
There you go.
For some reason, I can't get the image out of my head.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what to say to that one. But do you think they can? Do you think they will? Mercedes make it 6 in a row? Like Dan's pretty confident there. Do you reckon he's right?
They definitely can. And again, I think it's going to be Ferrari making mistakes or Vettel making mistakes, which is going to allow them to do it.
I'm not so sure. I think it's going to be. I think it's too close to call next year. Then again, I thought Vettel was going to win the title this year. So what do I know? But what do you reckon, Alex? I've not really spoken to you about this one. Obviously, Dan's had his say on it and Jonty as well. But Red Bull and Honda next year, what are you expecting from them?
I'm really interested to see what happens because they've been taking a lot of penalties over the last couple of weeks with Toro Rosso, haven't they? They've been obviously trying quite a few things with that engine. So I mean, obviously it's famous last words, but I don't feel they're quite yet. I think that's quite obvious to see, but I don't think it was quite as drastic as it was when they were with McLaren, especially in their last year, 2017. That obviously was a bit of a downgrade from the 2016 season, but I want to see Red Bull there. They've obviously shown over the last couple of races they're there or thereabouts, even though it's still with Mercedes and Ferrari making mistakes. But I do honestly feel that we'll see Red Bull close to the championship next year. But I don't know. I don't think they'll go for a constructors championship because I think Gasly's probably got still a bit to learn. But I feel like Max Verstappen on his day, as we've seen over the last couple of years, can really pull it out. It's just whether those days come enough next year.
Well, back to that stat I was saying earlier, actually, Alex, I've just pulled it up again because you've said that, but Verstappen would have been second in the championship in the last 10 rounds with 141 points. Long way off Hamilton still, 81 points I think that is, but still second in the championship ahead of both Ferraris and Valtteri Bottas and of course his teammate Danny Rick. So if he can continue that momentum into next season and Honda do turn up with an engine, I reckon is Christian Horner saying within 6/10 or something like that? If they can do that, I think Verstappen's got a great chance next year.
Well, their chassis obviously been pretty good. I mean, it's probably, we don't know whether it's the best, but it's obviously right up there now. We've known that for the last year or so that it's very good. And I feel like even though, okay, Verstappen has his hot-headed moments, but he's so much more consistent this year than he was even 12 months ago. I feel like last year was still a bit all over the place sometimes, but I'm so impressed in this year. And of course, all the off-track stuff we don't want to talk about, but the on-track stuff, he has really upped his game. And it's more about the consistency, because the pace was always there, but it's the consistency. So it's just whether now the car is with him throughout the whole season, I think. And if it is, I think he honestly can be a championship contender.
Yeah, I'm not going to use the words he used today, but Verstappen said he basically messed up the first 6 races this season. And you think back to China, you think back to the crash in Monaco, he could have been not in it, but much closer. So I've got good feelings for Verstappen next year. We're going to move on to some, before we get to Q&A, just wanted to go over this very, very quickly. Sauber announced this afternoon that they have got a junior programme set up. The statement reads, Sauber Motorsport is delighted to announce the launch of the Sauber Junior Team programme to compete in the FIA Formula 2, Formula 3, ADAC Formula 4 Championship and the Italian F4 Championship from 2019 onwards. I think they're partnering, I've only got that bit written down, but I think they're partnering with Charouz, is that how you say it? Charouz Racing?
Yeah.
So what I love about that, I mean, I love the fact they're going for a junior programme anyway, but what I love about that is 12 months ago, Dan, they were absolutely nowhere. They were right at the back of the grid. It was all falling apart for Sauber. Then they land the Alpha deal, obviously Ferrari connections there, and they're just going from strength to strength. This season they've grown so well, and now they've got to a point where they're going to have junior programmes as well. I think that's great news.
Yeah, it's brilliant news. Like you say, thinking back to where they were, I don't want to say it was unlikely that they'd be on the grid, but it was certainly starting to look as if these are the final years of Sauber. But with this Ferrari and Alpha deal, it's really turning around and flourishing now. And I'm pretty sure Charouz are the Ferrari sort of young driver team in F2, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so I imagine that will be almost like Prima have been, almost like a Ferrari young driver sort of feeder up to Formula One. But then again, there's nothing wrong with that. And like you say, looking at where Sauber were to where they are now, it really is brilliant.
I mean, and let's not kid ourselves, John T. Ferrari will have had a hand in this, and they've probably got bagsies, if you like, on at least a seat in each of those series for your likes of Callum Ilott and maybe your Antonio Fuocos. But it's kind of nice that it's under the Sauber name and not the Ferrari name. Nothing against Ferrari, but I just kind of like that. I don't know why.
It's because it's been such a long-standing name that certainly me and you have seen grow from nothing in the sport.
Yeah.
You know, they first came in 93, I think.
I want to say 91, but no, it is 93, the Black Sauber.
Yeah, and we've seen them go up and down so much. And the most recent time when they were really coming up, when we had Perez nearly getting a win, and during the years with Perez, Kobayashi, Suttel, they were always up there fighting 4th, 5th, 6th. They were always around, and then they dwindled away again. Now we've seen them come back up to where we have seen them, but they've got the backing this time. So this could be the turnaround for a good future. There'll definitely be a team to watch next year, and having young driver program can only make that better. They're not going to be hunting down for pay drivers all the time. They're going to be able to actually get drivers on merit.
Yeah. Anything you want to add on that, Alex? I know it's only just come out this afternoon, so maybe not a lot of time to really think about it. But initial thoughts on it all?
Nothing intellectual to say. I just find it funny that a junior team now has a junior team.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I like that. It's good news, isn't it, at the end of the day? But we're going to move on to Q&A. I know quite a few tend to disappear now when we drop to Q&A, so if you aren't going to be sticking around for that, thank you very much for tuning in for the first 95% of the stream. We won't be live for long afterwards, so really do appreciate your company. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, that whole YouTuber thing. We're going to move on to Q&A, and I'm going to put I never do this for Q&A, I usually say nothing's off limits, but I'm going to put a disclaimer in for this one. I'm not going to be answering any questions on the Verstappen knock-on incident from Sunday. I talked about it in the watch-along, we talked about it with Stuart in the live stream afterwards, and I talked about it in the video on Monday. as far as I'm concerned, and I think everyone should be the same, really, Ocon got a penalty for the on-track incident. Verstappen got one for the off-track incident. They both shook hands. It's over. Draw a line on it. Move on. Social media won't, but I think we just need to get on with it now. One more race to go. Let's just enjoy it and stop with all this unnecessary toxicity, if that's a word, unless I've just made that up, possibly. But anyway, toxicity. That's a horrible word. We're going to take some of your questions.
It is a word.
Is it a word?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I feel so intelligent. Not. Let's have a look. Let's see what we've got coming in. So, Rob Lal wants to know what our top 5 drivers of the year are. That might be... 5 might be pushing it for this one, but I think if I were looking outside of the top 3 teams, my driver of the year is Charles Leclerc. John T.
Gotta wait till after the season.
Oh, yeah, you have to. You've got a prediction to come true.
Yeah. And it all hangs on the last race. So the titles might be done and dusted, but there's still some drama.
What about you, Alex? Driver of the year? At this point, obviously still one more race to go.
Well, yeah, if we obviously ignore the top 6 again to make it a bit more interesting. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page. I'm really impressed with Hulkenberg's consistency throughout. That's something that I didn't really realise until I looked at it, but I think Charles Leclerc is probably the standout, to be fair.
Dan?
Yeah, I was the same as I'm annoyed at you, Alex, because I was going to say
Sorry.
Hulkenberg. That was my one. And when you said, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, nah, he's going to pick him out. But no, I think
Sorry.
Hulkenberg, yeah, it's all right. I think he's been great this year, really gone under the radar, but he's had a stellar year. I mean, Charles Leclerc, yeah, but I think Hulkenberg has, like I say, gone under the radar this year. He's done a cracking job.
Yeah, he's... You say he's gone under the radar. He's just been Hulkenberg.
Nah,
Kind of what he's done. It's what he's done his whole career.
better.
He turns up, he just grinds it out, he gets the results, he's consistent, and then at the end of the year you go, oh Jesus, Nico's done well this year. That's I've done it every year in his career, I think, pretty much.
To me, it's the amount he's ahead of Science, to be fair, because I think a lot of us really rated Science at the end of last year, and the fact that Science is over 20 points back, I think. It speaks volumes to, I think, Hulkenberg. He has the talent. Just when's that podium coming?
He's got to get it. He's got to have it. Motorsport Tube just says there, Hulkenberg scores points. Done. Exactly. That's exactly it. And that's why he's alongside Daniel Ricciardo next year. They could have gone with Sainz. They could have gone with one of their own youngsters, but he's consistent, and that's what they need. So if Grosjean drives as good as he drove at the latter end of the season, can he beat Hulkenberg next year? No. Grosjean is not that good. Dan.
What? You're all right, mate. You've been playing too much Fallout. What's that all about? You need to get an early night, mate. Grosjean, brilliant driver. Very underrated. You know what? I'm going to dodge the question and say that will all depend next year on the Haas car and the Renault car, because I think Haas will probably fall back a little bit and Renault will probably go forward a little bit. So I'll dodge that question a little bit and I'll say, yeah, Hulkenberg will beat him, but it's definitely down to the car and not the driver.
If Sauber continue to progress, then Haas might fall back even further, because, I mean, they've got that tie to Ferrari Haas, haven't they? But if all of Ferrari's efforts are going to now go into Sauber as a junior team, then that might affect Haas quite badly, which is a shame. It's all joking aside, it is genuinely a shame, because I think they've got a very good driver lineup there.
Yeah, and I mean, at the beginning of this year, if I was being honest, I thought Haas would have a pretty terrible year. They came out of nowhere in pre-season testing, and they've had a really strong season. So next year, again, they could prove us all wrong and rock up and be right up there with Red Bull, maybe. So you never know. But unfortunately, yeah, with Ferrari getting ever closer to Sauber, I think, even with the Rich Energy deal, I think Haas will slowly fall back now, but fingers crossed they don't.
Yeah, here's a good one, John T. Motorsport Tube says, how will Toro Rosso do next year? I've got a sneaking suspicion that they'll probably continue next year, as awful as it sounds, as they've kind of ended this season as a bit of a test bed for Honda and Red Bull if things don't go the way that Honda are expecting. Obviously, if they do, then maybe not. But if things start to go wrong sort of at the start of the season, I think that's exactly what Toro Rosso will be.
I don't think it'll start off that way, but as the engine gets developed throughout the season, I think you're going to see parts being on the Toro Rosso before the Red Bull.
Yeah, I
Do you know
think.
what I mean?
Yeah, I think what I meant was just like if they get to Australia and it blows up, and then they get to Bahrain and it blows up, and then they get to China, then they might go, right, we need to start chucking stuff on that Toro Rosso, if that makes sense. I don't expect to rock up to Australia as a test team, but I think they might panic a little bit.
I think you can definitely say that no matter what happens, Toro Rosso will be starting at the back in Spain.
Yeah,
That's usually a place where they all bring something new.
yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, that's good. I'll ponder that later. We might bring that up another day. Certainly in the build-up to next season, which isn't as far away as everyone thinks. I think I was going to say the winter seems shorter this year, but it is by a week, isn't it? So that'll be probably why. Will Sauber there's always one. Will Sauber fight for podiums, says Shadow Fan. What do you reckon, Alex, for next year? Can you see them fighting for podiums, or would they need your Baku 2017 style races to really get a good shot at that?
Yeah, I feel like it will have to be pretty crazy because I feel like we're going to have obviously the top three teams from this year. I feel like Renault are probably not going to be quite on the level of the top three, but they're at least going to make the step up. So that's already 8 cars without retirements that they're going to have to, well, less than that. But you know what I mean? There's 8 cars that are probably quicker than them. So it's going to take a big turn of events or something like that to happen. But, you know, I think it'd be great to see because obviously we saw them get a podium or multiple podiums back in 2012. So I think we need that back in Formula One, just that hint of randomness from time to time about who's going to be on the podium and which teams.
Yeah, it's going to come down to what development they can throw on. I mean, I didn't expect this year to be as good as it has for Sauber, to be honest. I thought when the Alpha backing came in, I sort of looked at it and went, that's good for 2019, but I don't expect much this year. And they surprised. Actually, John T, going back to it, right from launch, I remember us looking at that car going, that's surprisingly very nice and very clever.
Yeah, true. I've forgotten about that.
It doesn't seem like that long ago to me. Will Stroll win Baku if the 2019 Force India is good, says McGath. I think we'd need a Baku 2017 for him to do that one. Definitely. Hulk for podium or I quit. Fair enough. Andrew Drury. We've been talking about him, so we might as well go for it. If Bottas is booted out of Mercedes, where will he go after that? I'll go straight in there. I'll go first. I could see him back at Williams. I could see him go there. They really did rate him, didn't they, Dan?
Yeah, that's the sensible option. I mean, for Bottas, it's probably not. I think Williams probably will go forward a little bit, but there was a great relationship there. Bottas excelled there. He'd be a great partner for George Russell as well. I think that would be a really nice relationship. So, yeah, I think that's the obvious one. And if I was being honest, that's the only one I can really see happening. I can't really see him forcing a move into any of the Renault teams or Ferrari teams. Even Racing Point, Force India, I don't see that. So I think it's Williams or nothing, really.
Would you agree with that, Alex? Or do you think maybe Force India, if they decide not to stick with Perez, I don't know why they would, but if they did, might take him on?
Well, I suppose it's how many years he stays at Mercedes for. But obviously, we're thinking about the end of next year as being his last. Yeah. I mean, maybe someone like Renault, I don't know, but like you're saying, I don't know whether that would really happen. I think Williams is the only logical one right now because obviously all the ties from the past.
Yeah. John T, do you think, does he go anywhere or does he end up somewhere like Formula E? I say like Formula E is nothing, but you know what I mean.
I was going to say, end up at Formula E or WEC because there's not going to be anywhere free.
The thing, isn't it? Ferrari they're not going to take Bottas even if Vettel went. They've put all their eggs on, well, not all their eggs in one basket with Leclerc, but they've gone for Leclerc for youth to develop him. Red Bull aren't going to take him because they like to keep their own drivers in where they can. Yeah, Williams or nowhere, really. Maybe McLaren, if Norris or Sainz don't work out, maybe. But as far as I understand it with McLaren, that's a multi-year deal. But then having said that, Sorokin was a multi-year deal at Williams, wasn't he? So you never know in Formula 1. But Sully just asked a question. Let's have a look. There it is. Will Leclerc challenge next season? I think he's proven himself, John T. 9 points finishes with 1 race to go this season. He's been really good. So jump in that car I think he can be. It might take him a few races, but I think he can be within striking distance of Seb. And I can see, certainly come the summer break, him as quick as, if not quicker.
The big thing besides his point scoring this year is the fact that he's shown massive maturity in the way he deals with certain situations. That's the big difference. And that's what's going to make the difference against Seb.
I think it depends, doesn't it, Dan, on what Vettel does in the winter. He needs to... So many mistakes this year. So many mistakes. And he had a couple in 2017, and I felt then that he needed to go away for the winter, refocus, get himself back in the zone, and he kind of came back and really did, but he couldn't hold it for the whole season. I think he needs to go away and really probably hide somewhere for the winter and just literally just turn everything off he can and completely re-engage his brain, because it's just from, people say Germany, but I'd say from France onwards, it all just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, he needs a deep hibernation period. I agree with you there. I'd like to think a 4-time world champion just needs a little bit of time just to reset everything and then can come back next year. I think we spoke earlier about Max Verstappen at the beginning of the season, really didn't get going, but now almost looks unbeatable. So I think maybe he needs to do that. Maybe he needs to look at little things, maybe in his race day routine, maybe just in his life. Little things like that sometimes can make a big difference. So over the winter, there's a lot to think about. But I think, like you say, more than anything, he needs to chill. Just needs a big reset to then next year get going again, because it's going to be a tough year for him. And if he doesn't deliver, big question marks will be on his head.
What do you reckon, Alex?
Yeah, I think it's so many things. It's going to be really just interesting to see how 2019 plays out. There's so many things that could happen between even now and the start of the season. I'm excited to see how it all plays out in 2019.
Yeah, Andras made a super chat earlier, and I'm going to take one more question after his. He just wants to know, has Dan got Grosjean's cookbook?
Dan would love Grosjean's cookbook. If anyone wants to get me a Christmas present, there's an idea right there. It's been on the wish list for a while, but it's very hard to get brand new, and I'd quite like a brand new copy. So I don't have it to answer the question, but of course I would love it. And Grosjean, brilliant driver. I'm sure he's a brilliant chef, so I'd love to make some of his creme brulees or whatever he's got going.
All right, mate, calm down. It's a cookbook.
Nah, but you know I love my food references. If it's saucy, if it's spicy, delicious book. I would love that one.
Tasty.
That's the one.
Let's have a look for one more question then to finish up on. Let's have a look. There's quite a few coming through, actually. Oh, I'm not going to ask that one about Vettel and Hamilton. We talked loads about Vettel and Hamilton. Oh, this is tough. There's loads. I will go with that one. Why not? Tom, you can have last question of the day. He says, who's going to be the next shock winner? First of all, who was the last shock winner?
Probably Verstappen, I guess.
Yeah, maybe his Spain win. His
What was
first
it?
win.
Yeah, but once both the Mercs were in the gravel, was it that much of a shock?
The last shock. I'm trying to. Yeah, forget the next one. Who was the last one?
Maldonado.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Can't think of any since. Yeah, it's probably Maldonado, wasn't it? 2012. So next one,
Depends on which way you look at it, because you could say Lewis in Baku this year was a shock winner.
Should we go underdog then? Who will be the next underdog winner? I know what you're saying about shock winner now, because yeah. I'm gonna go Perez. I'm going to go Perez. Force India can build a good car, which we've seen they can do. They've got that Mercedes engine. You'd need a chaotic race to get an underdog winner. So he's consistent. As long as he don't put his teammate in the wall, I can see him. Yeah, I'm going to go Perez. Come to you first, Alex. Put you on the spot.
I'll tell you what, Hulkenberg is not going to get a podium, then he's going to suddenly win a race. That's what I'm saying.
That'd be a good story, wouldn't it? No podium, straight for the win, no messing about. I'd like
Maldonado effect.
that. Yeah. Dan?
Romain Grosjean.
Oh, God's sake.
I don't need to say anything else. I think we're all aware. Chat's all aware. Brilliant driver. He deserves a win by now. No, actually, if I'm being serious, I'd go Nico Hulkenberg. I think Renault will make a big jump next year, and I think if anyone's going to do it, I think it'll be him.
Yeah, don't forget he's a fantastic cook as well, Grosjean. You missed that one off.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that.
Tasty. John T.
No one's using the heads here. Kimi Raikkonen.
Wow. Yes.
Look how much that Sauber's improved this year, and next year they got Kimi driving.
I forget he's going to Sauber.
I just assume he's going to be at Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's been the way for like the last 5 years.
One of those, if he turns up in Australian Ferrari overalls, you'll be like, oh, back again, are we?
He probably would do that just to mess with people.
That's a good shout, though, John. I'd not even thought about it like that. I like that. Yeah, definitely. We're going to leave it there, though, because as much as I'd love chatting to you, I'd love to keep talking to you all on this one, but we need to let people go off and have lives. I assume they have them. But yeah, thank you very much once again, Alex, for coming back, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It'd be great to have you on again in the near future, hopefully.
Yeah, loved it. Thank you, as always, for inviting me. And thanks to everyone in the chat for making it a great experience, as always.
Yeah. Dan Grosjean, it's been a pleasure having you as ever, mate. It's been a good laugh again.
It has, and you know what? I appreciate the positivity around Romain Grosjean today and around Formula E. It's been a nice change, so thanks for having me.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, one off.
And as always, John T, it's been awesome having you on, and thanks for coming along. It's good to get these discussions going, and I like four. I like having four of us.
Yeah, having four of us is good. It's great to have Alex back, and Dan, as usual, we can put up with his fandom.
Awesome, guys.
Obviously, thanks to the chat as well.
Yeah, chat's been fantastic tonight, as always, to be fair. But thank you to you guys, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you all in a short while.
Yeah, see you later.
See ya.
Lovely. Thank you very much to Alex, Dan, and John T. I like the four. It gives you thinking time when you guys throw questions at us. But thank you to you guys for tuning in as always. It was a pleasure. Like I say, chat fantastic as always tonight. Lots of questions coming our way. Some great debate as well. And which is rare in the F1 community at the moment. Some civilised debate, which was quite nice. So thank you for that one. I will be back. When will I be back? We're non-race week, so I'll be back on Friday with this week's news roundup. And don't forget, we will be live, of course, this Sunday at 6 p.m. UK time for the usual stream. Make sure you keep an eye as well on Twitter, Facebook, and all of that lot, because I'm going to be posting a straw poll this week at some point for you guys to vote for your favourite driver of 2018. Then I'll do a top 5 countdown like I did last year after the season is all finished. And we'll reveal that one, and I'll get trolled massively again when you all pick probably Hamilton or something. I think it was Ocon last year, actually, to be fair. But yeah, keep an eye on social media for that. You can follow me over there. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.